So it's one of these things that I've promised for a little while now, and unfortunately I hoped to do this last week, but I wasn't feeling too great, so I've had to delay this to this week. And this review is also going to be featured as part of a meta review that's been written on the United Inkdom. I think it's actually live already, so I hope we can add this link to this video into that. But check out the United Inkdom .uk to have a look at the review of the Robert, I'm saying Oster, I don't know whether it's Oster, but I'm going with Oster, the Robert Oster Signature Ink Collection. It's the only bottle I have, the only full bottle, so I didn't bother bringing the sample bottles that I have into use in the video, but this is the one full bottle that I have, and this one is, can you see? Can you read that? This one is the Fire and Ice, the much anticipated Fire and Ice. So chuffed to have got myself my hands on a bottle of that as soon as that came here to the UK. So Robert Oster features Australian, so these inks I've seen a lot on Instagram, I've seen a lot of pictures of these various inks, and I know there's a lot of people like me out there. I absolutely love blue inks and the wide, massive variety of blue inks that are available. Robert Oster does, you know, many colour inks, but for me, what I love is the blue inks, and that's what really interested me. So when I had an opportunity to get some samples of some Robert Oster inks to do a review on, and that was gratefully sort of made by izods.ink here in the UK, who was the first person to bring the Robert Oster inks here to the UK. I jumped at the chance and took every opportunity to sample every blue ink that was in that collection over here in the UK. That was prior to the Fire and Ice coming over. I then another very gracious offer out there from a friend of mine on Instagram, Janine, who offered to send me samples of 2 more blue inks by Robert Oster, which were unbelievable as well. So it gave me the opportunity to sample a fair few of them. And then the Fire and Ice came out, so I did manage to get a full bottle of that. But as I said, Robert Oster is actually Australian, and he makes these inks, him and his team make every one of these inks individually, and they're done by hand. So this isn't a sort of mass production sort of ink. These are, and I think that's where that sort of signature line comes from, these are made by him and the team. Beautiful part of Australia, and the names of these inks all sort of tend to reflect the beautiful surroundings in Australia. Good saturation. I'll show you the colours that I've got at the moment, and they also state on the website that they are safe to use in all fountain pens. I haven't tried them in any vintage fountain pen, but then I don't have any vintage fountain pens with sacks fitted in them actually. So I'm not sure whether there would be a problem or not with that. I would probably check with Robert first, or somebody that maybe has tried that beforehand before putting them into a pen like that. I haven't had any issue with staining, and I've had them in demonstrator pens. In fact, I have one of them in this custom Heritage 92 at the moment, and it's not causing any staining whatsoever, so I'm really pleased with that. But I've got some samples, I've written out some samples, I'll just go highlight through them so you can see the sort of colours that are on offer. But I have been very, very, very pleased with them, and this will not be the last bottle that I have of these inks. Price wise here in the UK, £14.50 at the moment for a 50ml bottle. It's not cheap, there's no sort of hiding the fact that it's cheap, but then by comparison, it's no Pilot Iroshizuku ink either at sort of the tail end of £40 here in the UK. It's dearer than you'd find your Rohrer and Klinger ink or Diamine ink, where you're getting 80ml for about £6, here in the UK. However, it is that middle of the road. I would say it's sort of comparable to the Pelkel Edelstein sort of range really, and that sort of price point of ink. I'm happy to pay that much for these inks because they are colours that I haven't seen before. They're colours that I'm really enjoying using, and they're ones that I tend to reach for. But there are people out there that are selling samples as well, so that option is available. But please do check out. I'm going to put the iZod's website's links down below to have a look at the full range. There are 12 there at the moment for you to have a look at, including Fire and Ice. If you just put in the hashtag Fire and Ice ink or something along those lines into Instagram, you'll see a beautiful red sheen that lies beneath this ink, which is fantastic. Always better to do it in a broad nib than in the fine nibs that I use, but I have tried using sort of, you know, one of the wettest nibs I have in order to sort of, so I can benefit from that. But still, I love the base colour of it anyway. I'll show you the ones, all of the blue inks that I've sort of tried and that I was given samples of, and I'll see you in just 2 secs. Thank you. Welcome back. So let's have a closer look at these 7 inks that I've had the pleasure and opportunity of trying out. As I said, I've really got quite an affinity for blue inks. Anything from a fairly dark blue black right the way through to sort of turquoises and those teals and that sort of mix of sort of almost greens. And these are the ones that I had a look at. So let's have a look. So I've gone from, well, I thought I'd gone from darkest, but it didn't work out that way as it is. So these have all been done with a dip pen, a glass dip pen, so you've got an opportunity to actually sort of see closely. So the top one here, this is Summer Storm. When you sort of, in a fine nib, it just looks like a very pale grey. But when you look at it with a sort of glass dip pen here, let me see if I can bring it up so you can see it a little closer. It has almost like a sort of lilac undertone to it, which is sort of quite nice. I think if you're writing with a broad nib pen, this would really sort of write quite nicely. With a fine nib, it really doesn't do it any justice at all. So I haven't used this an awful lot. Then I'm going on to blue black. It is probably the darkest blue black that I've seen. It's probably more of a black blue. You'll see there it's past navy. It's really a sort of deep grey with a hint of a really dark blue in there. And you look at that sort of scribble sample there, it almost looks black. But so this is a scribble just done with a glass dip pen. This here is a cotton bud swab that I've done, just 2 passes of a cotton bud swab. So it really is quite a, so if you have to use dark ink in work and maybe you want something that's not quite black, then this is just not quite black. Then blue denim, among my favourites already. I've had this inked up in my, it's not mine, in the loaned to me Custom Heritage 92. And I love this. It really sort of does remind me of that sort of, you know, that jeans, that deep sort of jeans. It's almost tealy as well. It lies really nice between a nice sort of deep blue and a teal colour. You can see that sample there. It's got some really nice shading that comes up with that, and even in a fine nib. So I've had it in fine nib and it really does allow for some really lovely shading. Right, then on to, can you see the shading already in this one here, the next one? Bondi Blue. So this blue denim and Bondi Blue were 2 samples that were sent to me very nicely by Janine Scribbles on Instagram, which I was very, very sort of grateful for. And that's got some beautiful shading in there, and I've loved writing with that. Again, writes beautifully in a fine nib. Moving then on to the very much talked about Fire and Ice. I can't get the red sheen showing up an awful lot on here, but I have seen it in the writing, and there are some beautiful pictures of it online. But it's really nice. It's again lends towards that teal. If you have a look at the scribble sample here, can't say, still can't, but there's some nice shading in that Fire and Ice, and it shows it's a really nice colour. Very, very, very pleased with that. Blue Sea. This is one that was sent to me by Eyes Odds to have a look at. Again, very happy with Blue Sea. It really is Blue Sea. And this one, this Deep Sea, is also among my favourites. I love a teal ink. This Blue Sea I love because I really like a turquoise ink, but this Deep Sea I love because it's a really beautiful tealy, fresh, light green that I absolutely love, and in a finer nib it shows up. It's just a really nice colour. You can just see, if you have a look quickly at my notes here, it's just, sorry, excuse my notes, you'll see the difference. This is Fire and Ice that I've written with up here. This one here is Bondi Blue. Bondi Blue, as I say, both of them have a lot of, it's really nice, sort of nice saturation on them, and they have some good shade into them. Every single one of them that I've used has some good shade, other than the Summer Storm, just because it just isn't suitable to use in a fine nib pen. So if you want it, these are the bottles. I think the bottles are lovely, just understated, nice sticker on there, practical to use, maybe a little sort of tall when it might get to the bottom, but certainly not among the worst of the bottles that are out there. But I'm very, very pleased with them, and I like the fact that it has this sort of sample on the top, so you can see the colour of it while it's sat in your drawer. I have an ink drawer like many people, and you know, this is the first thing I see. One day I want to get some dots and put dots on the top of them and colour them all in so I can sort of see from there. But I do like that touch that it has that on there, so you can instantly see what you're picking up to go with your pens. As I said, thank you very much to IZOS for sending me the samples. I will put a link down below to that site. Any questions you have, please do ask, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.